Hello and welcome to Elevate Your Wealth. I'm your host, Casey Elkins, co-founder and managing partner at Elevated Financial Management. We're really excited to have you here with us today. We're talking about things that are always top of mind for retirees, pre-retirees, those that are early in their retirement. And like always, I'm joined by Mark Stimson, my friend, father-in-law, and business partner. How you doing today, Mark?
I am doing great. We're excited to share with the viewers today about an option that doesn't get talked about a lot, but we want to spend some time on, should I maybe think about a CCRC, which is a continuing care retirement community, right? And what it allows a person to do is have care when it's needed and not have to move to a different facility. And so it's an option I want to spend some time on today. I'm excited about this because it is an option. We've got clients in Bellevue that they've got some beautiful facilities there. There's beautiful facilities all over our area. So learning about this might be an option that you're not familiar with. But again, we're just happy to be here to help educate our viewers on different things that are going to affect them in retirement. It could be taxes. It could be inflation. It could be, what do I do as far as when I have to choose Medicare? Do I go a Med Sup or a Med Advantage plan? What about what's the best way to move money to my children? There are so many issues that come into play for retirement planning, and that's what we're passionate about. And we're going to talk about something today that I think they'll find very interesting.
Yeah, you know what I'm excited about with this, Mark, and whenever we do topics like this on the show, is that it's not just about the financial planning, it's about what you said, which is retirement planning, right? That's really what we're trying to bring for our audience, because what we see is that so many folks really just have the investment management. They don't have a true retirement plan that accounts for these types of things, right? Continuing care, we talk about long-term care on other episodes, and this is kind of a different flavor of that, right? But we're gonna get more into it. But there's something in specific here that I wanna share. By 2034, more Americans will be over 65 than under the age of 18.
Yeah, never happened.
That has never happened before. That is wild information, and it really just shows that that is something, that's a sector of the U.S. that really needs a lot more attention, because as those folks get older, they're going to need care. And so that's why we want to talk about this, because what are the options? What can somebody do to maintain their independence and yet at the same time still have the care that they need for their retirement? And that's why we're talking about this today.
Yeah, you mentioned, about the more being over 65 than under the age of 18. It says, where will I live later matters more than ever now. So talking about this, that's kind of why we're doing it. It doesn't get talked about enough. And I spent some time on this article. I thought it was amazing. And the interesting part about this article, this was written by a very successful planner who is now a client. She's gone through this. She's 78 years old. Her husband's 77. So they happen to go the CCRC route, right? And there's many reasons for why she made that decision. So again, I just want to talk about some reasons maybe it makes a lot of sense. It doesn't make a lot of sense for everybody, but when you add up all the costs of possibly staying in our home, because that's really what we're talking about. Do I stay in my own home or condominium?
Right.
Do I move to an assisted living or a CCRC community? Or, the worst case option, when my health goes totally bad, I may end up in a nursing facility, right? But what's important about this is going to help us to make a lifestyle decision before we really maybe are having tremendously bad health, right? My grandfather got Alzheimer's, he ended up in a nursing facility, right? So again, I just think there's options out there that a lot of people are not familiar with. And I hope to be able to educate just a little bit about this subject today, both of us, because it can be a wonderful choice and something that a lot of people just don't know about.
Yeah, you know what, and it isn't so much just about where do I land, right? That is part of it. Where do I live? Where do I stay? Those kinds of things. But the other side of it is the community that comes with it, right?
That's a big part of
it. Yeah,
because
CCRC, Continuing Care Retirement Community. And you know what? I think that that's such an important piece of this, because so many people we've said it before, we'll say it again, so many people move into retirement and are sort of ill-prepared as far as their social circle goes, because so many people's social circles are tied up in their work, right? And let's say, even if it isn't, let's say you've got a really strong social circle outside of work. Well, what if those people are younger than you when they haven't retired yet? Now your social circle suddenly doesn't have as much time as you have, right? And so even though those are still your friends, your close friends, you have all this time to be doing other things. And so what you choose to do with your time and who you spend that time with, that's what retirement is all about in the first place. So I love the idea of a CCRC for folks, because it's not only the care, but it's also the community, or the sense of community, that comes along with it as well. Yeah,
and I think just to maybe talk the reality just a little bit about this, because there is a cost. And when she was looking into the facility where they had a nice condominium in Florida, but for them the average monthly rent in a CCRC was about $37.47 a month. Now people might go, well, that's fairly significant, but we're going to tie in exactly, it may not be as bad as what you may have guessed, but there is a front end cost, an initial cost that can be anywhere from $100,000 to over $1 million, depending on where you're living and the type of care and the options. There's 3 basic levels for this, but again, it boils down to way more than just the money. I think that's what I want to emphasize. Okay, I think what I loved about when they were analyzing this, she said, we analyzed spreadsheets, considered tax and estate implications, and asked tough questions about what happens when one of us ends up alone. They'd already each lost a spouse prior, so they're familiar with that. But I love the fact that they're talking about this, because they know it's coming. And that's what I want to share. It says, equally important, we were deciding how we want to live while we are both still here. So it was about a lifestyle choice, right? That's what this is about, where they could be surrounded by friends with built-in opportunities for learning, movement, laughter, and purpose. And boy, I just think that's so important, because if we live on our own in our own home, that can be significant. But if we lose a spouse and we don't have anybody around, loneliness leads to depression. And a lot of people just don't do well once they lose their spouse. How many times do we hear of a husband or a wife losing their closest friend, and very shortly after that happens, they pass away as well? It can be totally different if you're surrounded by friends and other people that you love and want to be around. It could be a wonderful option, is what I'm saying. Is it for everybody? Absolutely not. But it could be a really great option. And I just want people to investigate it a little bit, because it can be really cool if you do.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's something that you do have to take the time to investigate. It's a conversation that you have to have with your planner. It's something that you have to take the bull by the horns to put together a financial plan, a retirement plan, so you know what those options are as you move into retirement and what the future potentially holds for you. So please take advantage. 844-342-7142. We'll help build out that retirement plan for you, a written financial plan that talks about the income that you need, the taxes that you might pay, the risks that you're taking. But to tie it in with our show today, it talks about where you might live in your retirement and what that future could look like with the right type of planning. 844-342-7142. Don't change the channel. Come right back to Elevate Your Wealth. We're going to talk more about those questions, those concerns that are top of mind for you.
Call 844-342-7142 for your own complimentary written financial plan with Risk Report. Why take unnecessary risk when you don't have to? At 65 years old, would you drive to the grocery store at 100 miles an hour if 40 miles an hour would get you there safely? When nearing retirement, are you still driving your investment accounts like you're in your 30s or 40s? Have you changed your investment elections since you first chose them in your retirement accounts at work? Call Casey, Mark, and the team at 844-342-7142 for your own investment risk report and written financial plan. Do you know exactly how much risk you're taking in your investment accounts? Now that you've accumulated a nest egg for retirement, you want to be certain the risk you're taking in those investments matches your goals and objectives. Call Mark, Casey, and their team at 844-342-7142 for your own complimentary risk report and written financial plan, or use the QR code below to begin scheduling your appointment. You may not have time to recover from taking too much risk.
You've got quite an extensive resume. Wow, so many years of management. Bet that was fun. So this job requires basic knowledge of the social media and video platforms, content creation, and SEO. How proficient are you in those areas?
Going back to work after retiring is not ideal. Plan your retirement right. Call now for your own complimentary portfolio review and tax analysis. Welcome back to Elevate Your Wealth. I'm your host, Casey Elkins. I'm joined as always by Mark Stimson. We're talking about all the hard-hitting topics that come up when you start thinking of your retirement, what the future might hold, and how to best plan for it. Something that we want to share with you, something that Mark and myself are very proud of, is this book right here, Break the Glass. This is something that it took us some time to put this book together, and really it was a project of passion. What we find is that so many books about retirement are written as though they're written for the financial advisor. They use industry terms and jargon and language that the retiree is not actually familiar with. And so we worked really hard on this book to bring this to you, our audience, and we'd love to share it with you. If you go to breaktheglassbook.com, we'll send a copy of it to you. We'd love to continue to help educate. That's the purpose of our show today. That's the purpose of every show that we do, our radio show, why we teach at the local colleges. Breaktheglassbook.com. Please take advantage of it, a valuable resource as you continue to build out your retirement plan and travel down that retirement road. So today we're talking about where folks might live when it comes to their retirement, and more specifically about how to have a sense of community as they move into their retirement, and to make sure that they keep that active lifestyle, right? We've talked a lot about, as a matter of fact, just maybe a few shows ago, a couple months ago, we talked about how folks can lose 1% of their muscle mass starting in their 30s every single year, 1% every single year starting in your 30s, and how that can start to erode people's vitality and their ability to go and enjoy their retirement. And so today that really ties in, because keeping that active lifestyle is in part how you keep that muscle mass, but make sure that those later years are as enjoyable as they can. And we talk about 3 phases to retirement, Mark: the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years, right? We want the go-go years to be as long as possible, and even the slow-go years to be as long as possible. It's those no-go years that we don't want people to have too many of if they wouldn't like. But the idea here being that how do we find a sense of community? How do we stay active? What can our audience do to make that part of their retirement plan?
Yeah, this article was very powerful. In fact, the person that wrote this article is living this life now. They've gone down the CCRC route. But I loved their planning, because they both lost their spouses earlier, and they went through the grieving process and experienced what they didn't want to have happen here. And I love where she said, we want a daily life to make it easier, not harder, when we lose that spouse, right? To stay connected, active, and engaged. And this was a wonderful thought and point. Research consistently shows that strong relationships, meaningful activities, and a healthy lifestyle boost happiness and longevity in later years. But notice this thought. A good CCR, independent living community, isn't just a safe place to land someday. It's a community you can be a part of today, like we've been talking about. Yeah. It's just, we know our clients that stay active and engaged and even work end up doing better in retirement and having healthier and better lives because they are active, mentally and physically. Now, some of us are dealing with issues where that may be limited, but it doesn't mean we have to give up and basically do nothing. There's a lot of things that can be done if you have the right help and guidance, and that's what we're hoping. If you're viewing and watching us today, that you'll give some thought to this, because if you do, you could end up with a wonderful retirement that you never even thought was possible. And that's what I hope this show is, that it motivates some to talk with us and find out some of these different options.
You know, we actually have a similar circumstance right now for a client that's been with us now for a couple years, I think. And they have a house in Bothell, right? Yeah. And they travel very extensively. throughout the world in their retirement, and they're having a great time, right? I mean, they've sent us pictures on the backs of elephants and going through Rome and really doing everything that they want to do in their retirement. And most recently, when we spoke with them, they said that they plan to sell their home in Bothell, which they're going to do very well on, right? House prices in Seattle and the surrounding areas have skyrocketed. And they're actually moving to a retirement community in Vegas. And they're searching,
and older,
55 and older. Now, it isn't exactly a CCRC, but it is a retirement community.
Right.
And there's a lot of value to that because for them, they're traveling so much, they're not at home. And so what's nice is that they know that there's people around that they're familiar with, that they're friends with in the community that are keeping an eye on things when they're gone for 6 or 8 months out of the year. And the landscaping, the upkeep, those kinds of things are all taken care of in this type of community. And so for them, it's a great option. And you know what, this article says something that I just think is so valuable. Again, the woman that wrote this was an advisor, and she helped a number of her clients, take advantage of a CCRC, right, a continuing care retirement community. But what she goes on to say is now that she lives in a retirement community herself, she says here, neighbors chat in the hallway. Friendships develop over meals and classes, and people enjoy lectures and concerts on campus. I mean, in a retirement, that's a big part of it, right? I mean, if you can continue to be educated, you continue to move, you continue to have friendships, build new friendships, take advantage of all those resources, and it's in a community that you're just there. You just wake up in this place. You don't have to travel to it. I tell you what, people have home gyms because they want to work out right in their home, right? They don't want to have to travel somewhere.
Right.
That's the whole purpose behind it, so that you don't have this travel. So if you can wake up in a community and make it easier on yourself to take advantage of all of these things in retirement, I mean, this is a great option for so many people.
Yeah, and I'm glad we're talking about this because she makes this point. She says, where can you live that supports the life you want now and provides the support you'll need later? Right, and you mentioned, now there is a trade-off, right? But some people don't consider the cost. Maybe they just look at that cost too much, on a monthly basis, let's say $3,800 a month. But you got to remember, if you stay at home, think about all the costs there. Taxes, upkeep of your home, maintenance, all of the costs for utilities. Right. See, and that's what a good advisor is going to help you analyze, because there is a trade-off, right? And it might be a little bit more, but if you get a lot of what I would consider, like you mentioned, bang for your buck. And I love some of the points that were made here. You talked about a fitness center. What about on-site health care? You don't have to travel to a doctor. How big is that? Transportation services to grocery store, dining options, housekeeping services, and the list kind of went on a bunch more. Advanced security. And in today's world, I know my wife talks about it all the time. She's scared to go out into the world. And how nice is it to know that you could be in a place that you're going to feel really safe in? What's the price tag for that? Right. So again, I just want our viewers to know this is an option that you might want to investigate, because it might bring about a change that you would be so thrilled with if you know really how it works.
Yeah, and I think about that too, even just, walking in a community like that, right? My grandparents, my grandfather would go walk every morning, right? He had a walking partner, and they'd just go walk. That's how they started the day, right? And what made that easy for them was proximity, right? Because they lived just a couple doors away, right? And the reality of, I'm probably not going to get in my car and drive over to your house and come walk with you every day, right? That's probably not going to happen. But if I can leave my house and just walk right past your house and pick you up on my way, well, then that's a great way to go. And so, it's something where, again, these types of things don't get talked about often in a financial conversation. And we know that this is not the typical financial show, right? We get that, but that's really the purpose behind this, because we're not the typical financial office. We aren't. It's about holistic retirement planning. And it isn't just about the dollars. It isn't just about the finance. It's about how it impacts your life and how you feel fulfilled and find a sense of identity as you move into your retirement. So if that's what you're looking for, if you're looking for some outside the box box thinking, not a cookie cutter retirement plan. You want something custom tailored just to you. Please take advantage. 844-342-7142. We will put together a written financial plan. You can have a conversation with Mark, myself, with our team. We'll talk about the taxes, the risks that you're taking. What are the housing options? What can you do for medical? When should you start your Social Security? All those questions that you're furiously Googling while you're trying to build your own retirement plan. We'll be here as a resource. 844-342-7142. Again, don't change the channel. Come right back to Elevate Your Wealth. We're going to talk more about important topics as you continue to plan your retirement.
We know the market is going to get worse from here. This is the biggest monthly decline in 10 years. People's 401ks took a major hit.
Well, my investments are tanking. My retirement isn't going as planned. I can't believe I let my kid talk me into buying crypto. I mean, what is that anyway?
This was the fourth worst contraction in history.
So how are you two doing?
Your financial future doesn't have to be uncertain. I'm Casey Elkins of Elevated Financial Management. If you have amassed a nest egg, it's time for a financial advisor to help you reach your retirement goals. This is one of the greatest tax windows in history. Now is the time to take advantage of this tax discount while you can. We specialize in retirement planning, tax mitigation, estate planning, and so much more. Plan your retirement right. Call now for your own complimentary portfolio review and written financial plan.
Welcome back to Elevate Your Wealth. I'm your host, Casey Elkins, joined by my friend, father-in-law, and business partner, Mark Stimson. We're co-founders and owners at Elevated Financial Management right here in Renton, Seattle, Washington. We're so excited to have you here with us today. And you know what, Mark, I'm going to tell on myself here with the audience. I love steak. I don't know about you, but I love steak.
Oh, I know you do.
Yeah, you know I do, right? I absolutely do. Yep. I'm always in search of a great steak. And you know what, that's partly why this article kind of caught our attention. For our audience, I don't know about you, but I see them often, an invitation for a free steak dinner to attend a retirement planning seminar at usually some high-end venue, right? Which is, I mean, I'd love to have the free steak.
I'm getting them.
Yeah, you get them, right? And so we see them, we talk about them. And you know what? The free steak is appealing. But I think with that, most people recognize that there's a sales pitch associated, right?
Right.
And so this article brings out that somebody went to one of these workshops or seminars, and they got their steak, of course, but the person teaching the class promised fantastical returns, and annuities are never going to lose money. In fact, they're going to outperform the S&P 500, and you know, there's no fees and all these kinds of things. And you know what, that's really frustrating to me, because that is misinformation at its finest. And you know what? We live in a world of information. We absolutely do. We know that that's why you're here, because you want information. You want to be educated. And we live in a world where you can go online and find anybody that believes anything, and they say it with such confidence that it's pretty hard to argue with them, right? But the truth of it is, you have to be careful about where you get your information. Not only do you have to be careful about where you get it, but even if the information is true, that doesn't necessarily mean that it applies in your individual circumstance. And that's really the key behind this, is that there are many financial tools, and annuities can be a great option if it's the right tool in the right application. But to be very frank, it isn't the right tool in every application. And in some circumstances, it's absolutely the wrong tool to use, depending on what you're trying to accomplish for your retirement. And so, you know, that's why this article really spoke to us. Isn't that right, Mark?
Yeah. And the sad reality is, it kind of gives a bad name to those that are maybe wanting people to come for a meal, but are offering something good. And that's the thing. Not all of these dinner seminars are bad.
That's true.
I've been to some, and I know. And so you have to be careful, like you mentioned, because there is a lot of great information. And if you really go to one of these where the individual, because they're marketing, right? They're trying to get in front of people that maybe need a service or a problem solved. And that's the thing. Too many times people just think they're going to be taken advantage of, because we talk about that at our workshops, our educational workshop. And we'll ask them to raise their hand. Do you think did you come here thinking you were going to be sold something? And how many raised their hands, right? The bulk of the room most of the time. And we help them to appreciate, no, this is educational. And some of these dinner seminars, they're very powerful. And, you know, you have to be willing to keep an open mind with this, because if you think everybody's just out there to take advantage of you, that can be a disservice to yourself, right? Now, that doesn't mean that they don't happen, and that's what this article talked about. He was making claims that shouldn't have been made, but even the person that he answered the question about, should I believe any of this stuff, that individual said, in the right situation, no, these annuities can be a perfect tool if they're used the way that they should be used. The problem is, some individuals make it look like that the annuity is the one size fits all and it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. That's not the case. But if it's a powerful tool used in the right situation, and I believe that 100%, I know you do too, because we do a lot of annuity business in our office, but we also manage a lot of assets. We do a lot of life insurance. We do a lot of long-term care planning. So again, all we're trying to do is solve the problem that that individual has. And annuities, if they're used in the right way, can be wonderful and very, very powerful.
Yeah, and that's exactly it, right? Used in the right way. It's always about using a particular tool in the right application and using it efficiently, right? And it takes the right type of advisor to be able to do that, right? You think of a doctor has a lot of tools, or a surgeon does, to perform the surgery that they do. Just because I have those tools doesn't mean I'm qualified to do the surgery, right? And it's
You're
the
not
same.
operating on my brain.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly it, though, right? Is just because you have the tool doesn't mean that you can use it efficiently. So it's not only about the right tool, it's also about the person with the right knowledge and experience that can take that tool and apply it in your individual circumstance. Now, Mark, we just have a few seconds. Would you share with the audience, if they pick up the phone and give us a call, what they could expect?
Yeah, so please, if you're watching the show and you have a concern about taxes or inflation or about income, please pick up the phone, call 844-342-7142. Because we make this promise right now. All we're going to do is have a conversation. You're going to leave your checkbook at home, and what you see now is what you'll see when you come in our office. So please, pick up the phone, give us a call, 844-342-7142.
Thank you very much, Mark, and thank you to everybody at home who's taken time out of their day to educate themselves and allowed us to be a part of that. We look forward to seeing you in the office, and we look forward to seeing you here next week on Elevate Your Wealth.